The morning sun painted the sky orange over Lincoln Elementary School in Montana. Children walked through the front doors carrying backpacks and lunchboxes. Their voices filled the hallways with laughter and chatter. It was Tuesday, October 15th, and everything seemed normal. Principal Margaret Stone sat in her office drinking coffee and checking emails. She had worked at Lincoln Elementary for 12 years. The school was small but special to her. 230 children attended classes here. Most of their families lived on nearby farms and ranches. Margaret looked out her window at the playground. Third graders were already running around before the first bell. She smiled and took another sip of coffee. Her computer screen showed the usual messages about lunch menus and field trip permissions. Then a red alert box appeared on her screen. The message came from NOAA Weather Service. Margaret frowned as she read it. Unusual atmospheric disturbances detected over northwest Montana. All schools advised to monitor emergency channels. She had never seen this type of alert before. Margaret picked up her radio and called her head custodian. "Pete, are you getting any weird weather reports this morning?" Pete Williams was cleaning windows in the second grade hallway. He was 62 years old and had been taking care of the school for 8 years. Before that, he spent 24 years in the Marine Corps. Pete stopped cleaning and looked outside. "Sky looks strange today, Margaret. Real strange. Those clouds don't look natural." Margaret stood up and walked to her window. The clouds were moving in patterns she had never seen. They seemed to spiral and twist in impossible ways. The color was wrong, too. Instead of white or gray, they had a greenish tint. In classroom 3B, Danny Martinez was trying to start his math lesson. He taught third grade and loved his job. 22 8-year-old faces looked up at him. But today the children seemed restless. They kept looking toward the windows instead of paying attention. "Mr. Martinez," said Bobby Chen, raising his hand. "What are those lights in the sky?" Danny walked to the window. Small points of light were moving through the strange clouds. They pulsed like stars but moved too fast to be airplanes. "I'm not sure, Bobby. Let me check with the office." Before Danny could reach for his phone, the lights grew brighter, much brighter. What had looked like distant stars now appeared as large, glowing objects. They were getting closer to the ground. 200 miles away, Commander Jake Harrison sat in the North American Defense Command Center. Dozens of computer screens surrounded him. Red warning lights flashed throughout the underground facility. Officers ran between workstations shouting orders. "Sir, we have multiple bogies entering our airspace," reported Lieutenant Lisa Park. She was the base intelligence officer and had been tracking unusual signals for the past hour. "They're not responding to any radio contact." Jake stared at the main display screen. 37 objects were moving through the atmosphere at impossible speeds. Their flight patterns defied every law of physics he knew. "What's their destination?" "They're spreading out across rural areas, sir. Looks like they're targeting small towns and schools." Jake felt ice in his stomach. In all his years of military service, he had never seen anything like this. The objects were clearly not human technology. "Get me the president on secure line. Now." Back at Lincoln Elementary, the strange lights were now visible to everyone. Teachers gathered their students away from windows. Margaret Stone's radio crackled with emergency messages from other schools in the county. "All units, this is Sheriff Brown. We have unidentified aircraft over Glacier County. Repeat, unidentified aircraft. All schools implement lockdown procedures immediately." Margaret grabbed the school intercom microphone. Her voice stayed calm even though her hands were shaking. "Attention teachers and students, we are beginning our emergency lockdown drill. Please follow all safety procedures we have practiced." The children knew what to do. They had practiced lockdown drills many times. Teachers locked classroom doors and moved students away from windows. The hallways became quiet except for the sound of footsteps and whispered instructions. In the kindergarten room, Nancy Johnson helped her 5-year-old student sit quietly in the reading corner. She had been teaching for 15 years, but had never seen the children so scared. Their eyes were wide as they looked at her for answers she didn't have. "Miss Johnson," whispered Maria Santos, "are the lights going to hurt us?" Nancy knelt down beside Maria. "We're going to be fine, sweetheart. The teachers and grown-ups are here to keep you safe. Outside, Captain Steve Rogers was racing toward the school with his National Guard unit. They had been conducting training, exercises 30 miles away when the alert came through. Steve had never seen anything like the objects in the sky. His trucks carried the best weapons the military had, but he wasn't sure they would be enough. How many civilians are in that school? Steve asked his radio operator. 230 kids, sir, plus about 20 teachers and staff. The largest of the strange objects was now hovering directly over Lincoln Elementary. It was enormous, blocking out the sun. The metal surface looked smooth and dark. No windows or doors were visible. It made no sound as it hung in the air like a giant shadow. Pete Williams stood in the main hallway holding a baseball bat. As a former Marine, his instincts told him to prepare for the worst. He had seen combat in 3 different wars, but nothing had prepared him for this. His radio crackled with Margaret's voice. Pete, get to the basement and help set up the emergency shelter. Move all the 1st and 2nd graders down there first. Copy that, Margaret. I'm on my way. The children could feel something was different. Even the youngest ones sensed the fear in their teachers' voices, but they followed instructions like they had been taught. They walked quietly in single-file lines toward the basement stairs. Above them, the alien ship began to descend. The alien ship landed in the school parking lot with a sound like thunder. Cars were crushed under its massive weight. The ground shook and windows rattled throughout the building. Children cried out in fear as their teachers held them close. Inside, the ship war leader Thekmore studied images of the human building on his control screen. He was 7 feet tall with gray skin and 4 arms. His species had conquered many worlds using the same simple plan. Find the young ones first. Take them. The adults always surrendered quickly after that. How many young are inside? Thekmore asked his second-in-command. Scans show over 200 juveniles, war leader, plus adult guardians. Thekmore made a sound like laughter. This would be easy. He had done this 17 times before on other worlds. Humans looked weak and soft. Their young appeared completely helpless. Within 1 hour, this planet would begin its surrender. Prepare the fear weapons. We will make the adults watch their young suffer. Then they will obey us. In the school basement, Amy Collins gathered her 3rd-grade students in the emergency shelter. The basement had thick concrete walls and metal doors. It was built after the government warned all schools about possible alien attacks. Amy never thought she would actually need to use it. Everyone sit in a circle, Amy said softly. We're going to play the quiet game until the grown-ups tell us it's safe. The children sat on blankets and held hands. Some were crying, but they tried to be brave. 8-year-old Bobby Chen squeezed the hand of the girl next to him. Miss Collins, Bobby whispered, what do the aliens want? Amy knelt beside him. She had been teaching for 6 years, but nothing had prepared her for this moment. I don't know, Bobby, but all the adults in this school are going to keep you safe. I promise. Above them, Pete Williams moved through the hallways checking doors and windows. His Marine training took over. He grabbed tools from his supply closet. A hammer, heavy wrenches, a crowbar. They weren't much against alien weapons, but they were better than nothing. Pete's radio buzzed. Pete, this is Margaret. What do you see up there? The ship is huge, Margaret. It's sitting right on top of our parking lot. I can see lights moving around inside it. Margaret was in her office coordinating with emergency services. Every phone line was busy. The county sheriff was 20 minutes away. The National Guard was coming, but they were still 15 minutes out. She looked at the security cameras showing the alien ship. It looked like a giant metal mountain had fallen from the sky. Pete, get down to the basement with the others. We can't defend against something like that. No, ma'am. Someone needs to stay up here and watch the entrances. These kids need time to hide. The alien ship opened like a flower. Metal panels folded back to reveal a bright red interior. 30 alien warriors floated out wearing dark armor. They carried weapons that glowed with purple energy. Thekmore was the largest among them. The aliens moved toward the school building. Their feet didn't touch the ground. They simply glided forward like ghosts. Thekmore activated his translation device and spoke into it. Humans of this structure, you will surrender your young to us immediately. Resistance will result in suffering. Compliance will result in quick processing. His words echoed through speakers that appeared from nowhere. Every person in the school heard the mechanical voice. The children grabbed their teachers tighter. Several adults started praying. In classroom 2A, Karen White was hiding with her second-grade students in the supply closet. She taught science and knew about chemicals. Her mind was racing. The school had a chemistry lab for the older students. If she could get there, she might be able to make something useful. "Stay here and don't make any sounds," she whispered to her students. "Miss Rodriguez will take care of you." Before anyone could stop her, Karen slipped out of the closet. She ran down the empty hallway toward the science lab. Her footsteps echoed in the silence. The aliens began cutting through the front doors. With their energy weapons, the metal melted like butter. Purple light filled the entrance hallway. Smoke poured from the melted door frames. Thekmore stepped inside first. He expected to see humans running in panic. Instead, he found empty hallways. The building seemed deserted. This was unusual. On other worlds, the adults usually stood in the open, begging for mercy. "Search every room," Thekmore commanded his warriors. "Find the young ones." The aliens spread throughout the building. They moved silently, checking every classroom. Most rooms were empty, but they found signs that humans had been there recently. Desks were still warm. Books lay open on tables. Pete Williams watched from behind a corner as 3 aliens entered the main hallway. He gripped his crowbar tighter. These creatures were bigger than he expected. Their armor looked thick and strong, but Pete had fought against bad odds before. One alien moved toward the basement stairs. Pete couldn't let it get down there where the children were hiding. He stepped out from his hiding place and swung the crowbar at the alien's head. The metal bar connected with a loud clang. The alien stumbled but didn't fall. It turned toward Pete with glowing red eyes. Pete realized his mistake too late. These things were much stronger than humans. The alien raised its weapon toward Pete. Purple energy began to glow at the barrel tip. Pete closed his eyes and thought about all the children hiding in the basement below. Then Karen White appeared from the science lab carrying 2 bottles of mixed chemicals. She threw them at the alien's feet. The bottles exploded in a cloud of burning gas. The alien screamed and fell backward. "Run, Pete, get to the basement," Karen shouted. But more aliens were coming. They poured through the melted front doors like water through a broken dam. Their weapons charged up with deadly energy. The real battle was about to begin. Thekmore was getting angry. These humans were not acting like the other species he had conquered. They were fighting back instead of surrendering. They were protecting their young instead of offering them as tribute. "Increase the fear weapons to maximum power," he ordered. "Make them understand that resistance is useless." But as Thekmore would soon discover, he had made a terrible mistake. He had threatened human children, and there was nothing in the galaxy more dangerous than humans defending their young. Pete Williams rolled behind a water fountain as purple energy beams flew over his head. The aliens were shooting at anything that moved. Their weapons burned holes through walls and melted metal lockers. Pete had never seen anything so powerful. "Karen, get down," Pete shouted as more aliens entered the hallway. Karen White ducked behind a classroom door. She still had 3 bottles of chemicals in her hands. Her science training told her exactly how to mix them for maximum damage. She threw another bottle at the nearest alien. The explosion sent the creature flying backward into 2 others. They crashed into the wall with a loud bang. Karen smiled grimly. Chemistry could be a weapon when used right, but more aliens kept coming. For everyone they stopped, 3 more appeared. Pete realized they couldn't win this fight with just tools and chemicals. They needed a different plan. "We need to get to the basement," Pete said into his radio. "Margaret, how are the kids?" Margaret Stone was in the emergency shelter with all the children and teachers. The basement was dark except for emergency lights. Everyone whispered to stay quiet. They could hear explosions and alien voices from upstairs. "We're okay down here, Pete. But those things are looking for us. They keep walking around upstairs." Pete looked at Karen. She was mixing more chemicals from bottles she had grabbed from different classrooms. Art supplies, cleaning products, even cafeteria materials. Everything could be turned into a weapon if you knew how. I have an idea, Karen said. The school has a sprinkler system that runs through every room. If I can get to the main controls, I can pump my chemical mixture through the whole building. Pete nodded. It was a crazy plan, but crazy was all they had. Where are the controls? Utility room on the second floor, but it's on the other side of the building. I'll get you there, Pete said. He picked up a fire axe from the emergency case. Stay close to me. They moved carefully through the school hallways. The aliens had spread out to search every room. Pete and Karen could hear them breaking down doors and overturning furniture. The creatures were getting frustrated because they couldn't find the children. In the basement, Danny Martinez was trying to keep his students calm. 22 third graders sat in a circle around him. They were scared but trying to be brave. Bobby Chen raised his hand. Mr. Martinez, why don't the aliens just go away? Danny thought carefully about his answer. Sometimes bad people want to hurt good people, Bobby. When that happens, the good people have to be very brave and work together. Like in superhero movies? Asked Maria Santos. Exactly like that, Maria. Except the superheroes are real people like your teachers and parents. Upstairs, Techmore was getting angry. His warriors had searched half the building but found no young humans. This had never happened before. On other worlds, the adults always gave up their children to save themselves. War leader, one of his soldiers reported. We found signs that many young ones were here recently, but they are not in the main areas. Techmore studied his scanner. It showed heat signatures in the lower level of the building. They are hiding underground. Find the entrance to the lower areas. 3 aliens began searching for stairs or elevators that led down. They moved systematically, checking every door and corridor. Thegmore knew it was only a matter of time before they found the basement. Pete and Karen reached the second-floor utility room. Karen immediately went to work on the sprinkler controls while Pete watched the door. He could hear alien footsteps, getting closer. How long do you need? Pete whispered. 5 minutes to mix everything and get it into the system. Then another minute to activate it. Pete gripped his axe tighter. 6 minutes felt like forever when aliens with energy weapons were hunting them. He could hear the creatures talking to each other in their strange language. They were getting closer. Karen worked fast, mixing bottles of different chemicals into a large container connected to the sprinkler pipes. Her hands shook, but her mind stayed focused. She had taught chemistry for 10 years and knew exactly what would happen when these substances combined. This mixture will create a gas that burns their skin and makes it hard to breathe, she explained quietly. It won't kill them, but it should hurt them enough to slow them down. An alien appeared at the end of the hallway. It spotted Pete and Karen through the open utility room door. The creature raised its weapon and prepared to fire. Pete threw his axe with all his strength. The heavy blade spun through the air and struck the alien in the chest. The creature fell backward, but its weapon fired as it went down. The purple energy beam hit the ceiling above Pete's head. Almost done, Karen said as she connected the last tube to the sprinkler system. More aliens were coming. Pete could hear their metal feet on the stairs. He grabbed a mop and bucket from the utility closet. Not much of a weapon, but better than nothing. 3 aliens appeared in the doorway. Pete swung the mop handle like a baseball bat, hitting the first one across the face. The creature stumbled but didn't fall. The second alien aimed its weapon at Pete. Now, Karen shouted as she hit the activation switch. Sprinklers throughout the entire school building began spraying Karen's chemical mixture. Within seconds, every room filled with burning gas. The aliens began screaming and stumbling around. Their skin turned red where the chemicals touched them. Thegmore was on the first floor when the sprinklers activated. The burning gas made his eyes water and his throat close up. His warriors were choking and falling to their knees throughout the building. Retreat to the ship, Thegmore commanded through his communication device. Regroup and put on environmental suits. The aliens stumbled toward the exits, coughing and gasping. Some of them fell down and had to be carried by others. Karen's chemical weapon had worked better than she hoped. In the basement, everyone cheered quietly when they heard the aliens retreating. But Margaret Stone knew this was just the beginning. The creatures would be back, and next time, They would be prepared for chemical attacks. Pete and Karen made their way back to the basement. Pete's clothes were torn and he had burns on his arms from alien weapons. Karen's face was covered with chemical stains, but she was smiling. "That was amazing," Amy Collins said when they reached the emergency shelter. "You drove them away." "For now," Pete said grimly. "But they'll be back, and they won't make the same mistake twice." Outside, Captain Steve Rogers and his National Guard unit finally arrived at the school. They saw the alien ship sitting in the parking lot like a metal mountain. Smoke was pouring from the school building where the sprinklers had activated. "Sir, should we attack the ship?" asked Sergeant Tim Johnson. Steve looked at his weapons. Machine guns and rocket launchers seemed useless against something that could travel between stars. But he had to try something. Set up a perimeter around the school. "If those things come out again, we hit them with everything we've got." Inside the alien ship, Thekmore was reporting to his commander. The war leader's skin was still red and burning from the chemical attack. "Admiral Vorthak, we encountered unexpected resistance. The humans have turned their building into a weapon." Admiral Vorthak had never heard such a report before. "Explain this resistance, war leader." "The adults did not surrender their young. Instead, they fought us with improvised weapons and chemical attacks. Several of my warriors are injured." There was silence on the communication channel. Finally, Admiral Vorthak spoke again. "This is impossible. No species protects their young at the cost of their own lives." "These humans do, Admiral. They are different from anything we have conquered before." Admiral Vorthak made a decision that would change everything. "I am coming to your location with the full battle fleet. If these humans want to fight, we will show them what real war looks like." But as the Admiral would soon discover, humans had been preparing for real war longer than he could imagine. Captain Steve Rogers watched through binoculars as more alien ships appeared in the sky. The first ship had been huge, but now there were 12 more just like it. They blocked out the sun as they moved into position around the school. "Sir, we're getting reports from all over the country," Sergeant Tim Johnson said. "Every major city has alien ships overhead, but they're not attacking yet. They're just watching." Steve lowered his binoculars. The aliens were waiting for something. Maybe they were waiting to see what happened here at Lincoln Elementary. This small school had become the center of a war between humans and aliens. Inside the school, Pete Williams was setting up more defenses. The chemical attack had bought them time, but the aliens would return with better protection. Pete used his knowledge of the building to create deadly surprises. He moved desks and chairs to block hallways. He stretched piano wire across doorways at neck height. In the gym, he hung heavy equipment from the ceiling so it would fall on anyone who entered. Pete had learned these tactics in the Marines, but he never thought he would use them to protect. Children Joe Carter, the school maintenance worker, helped Pete with the traps. Joe knew every pipe wire and vent in the building. He had been fixing things at Lincoln Elementary for 15 years. "We can flood the first-floor hallways," Joe suggested. "I can break the main water pipes and make it hard for them to walk." Pete said. "Anything that slows them down helps." In the art room, Helen Moore was making weapons from school supplies. She taught art to kindergarten through 5th grade and knew every material in the building. Scissors became throwing knives. Rulers became spears. Even crayons could be melted down and used to make slippery traps. Helen had never hurt anyone in her life. She painted flowers and taught children to draw butterflies. But when aliens threatened her students, something fierce woke up inside her. She would use every skill she had to protect them. Down in the basement, the children were helping too. 11-year-old Bobby Chen had taken apart several school computers and was building a communication device. His father was an engineer and had taught Bobby about electronics. "I can make a radio that talks to the outside," Bobby told Principal Stone. "We can tell people what's happening here." Margaret Stone looked at the young boy working with wires and circuit boards. In a few hours, Bobby had learned to do things most adults couldn't do. Children were amazing when they needed to be. 10-year-old Maria Santos was organizing the younger kids. She had them memorize the layout of the building's basement tunnels. If the aliens found them, the children would know where to run and hide. Remember, Maria told a group of first graders, the tunnel behind the furnace leads to the cafeteria. The tunnel near the storage room goes to the gym. Stay quiet and follow the older kids. The first graders nodded seriously. They were scared, but they trusted Maria. She was only 10 years old, but she was brave like the grown-ups. Outside the school, more human forces were arriving. The National Guard had been joined by regular army units. Air Force jets flew overhead, but their weapons couldn't penetrate the alien shields. The humans were badly outgunned, but something else was happening that the aliens didn't expect. News of the school attack had spread around the world. Television stations showed pictures of the alien ships hovering over Lincoln Elementary. Everyone on Earth could see that aliens were threatening human children. The response was immediate and massive. Every country on Earth began mobilizing their military forces. Old enemies became allies when faced with the alien threat. Russians worked with Americans. Chinese generals talked to European commanders. The entire human race was uniting against the common enemy. In Washington, D.C., President William Hayes was meeting with his top advisors. The situation reports were grim. The alien ships had superior technology and seemed impossible to defeat with conventional weapons. "Mr. President," said General Patricia Williams, "we have one option we haven't discussed. Project Starfall." The president was quiet for a long moment. Project Starfall was humanity's most secret program. For 50 years, scientists had been preparing for this day. They had developed weapons specifically designed to fight aliens. "How long to activate Starfall?" the president asked. 6 hours, sir. But we need time to get our people clear of the target zones." Meanwhile, at Area 51 in Nevada, Dr. Susan Clark was uploading a computer virus into Earth's satellite network. The virus had been designed to attack alien computer systems. If it worked, it would shut down the alien ship's defenses. "Upload complete," Dr. Clark announced to her team. "The virus is now in every satellite orbiting Earth. When the aliens try to hack our communications, they'll get a nasty surprise." Back at Lincoln Elementary, Admiral Vorthak's battle fleet had arrived. 13 massive ships now surrounded the school. Each ship carried 1,000 alien warriors. The Admiral was confident that this show of force would end human resistance. Vorthak activated his communication system and spoke to the humans below. His voice boomed from speakers throughout the building. "Humans of Earth, you have seen our power. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Continue to resist and we will destroy every human city on your planet." In the basement, the children heard the alien admiral's words. Some started crying, but the older kids comforted them. Bobby Chen looked up from his radio project and spoke to the other children. "Don't listen to them," Bobby said. "My dad always told me that bullies make big threats when they're scared. I think these aliens are scared of us." Margaret Stone was amazed at Bobby's wisdom. The boy was right. The aliens had expected easy victory, but humans were fighting back in ways they didn't understand. Thekmore prepared his warriors for the final assault. This time they wore environmental suits to protect against chemical attacks. They carried heavier weapons and moved in larger groups. The war leader was determined to crush human resistance once and for all. But as the aliens prepared to attack, they didn't know about the traps waiting inside the school. They didn't know about the weapons being activated around the world. Most importantly, they didn't understand that threatening human children had awakened something dangerous in the human race. The children of Lincoln Elementary had become symbols of human courage. Their story was being told on every television, station, and radio program on Earth. Soldiers in every country were fighting harder because they thought about those brave kids hiding in a school basement. Pete Williams checked his watch. The aliens would attack again soon. He had done everything he could to protect the children. Now it was time to see if human determination could defeat alien technology. In the basement, Amy Collins gathered her third-grade students around her. "Whatever happens," she told them, "remember that you are the bravest children in the world. Adults everywhere are fighting to keep you safe." Above them, the alien ships began to descend. The final battle for Lincoln Elementary was about to begin. But this time, The aliens would discover that humans had been preparing for this fight much longer than anyone realized. The alien assault began at exactly noon. 13 massive ships opened fire on the school building with energy weapons that could melt steel. But the humans were ready this time. Deep underground in Colorado, General Patricia Williams pressed a large red button. Project Starfall activated across the entire planet. Satellites that had orbited Earth for decades suddenly revealed their true purpose. They weren't just for communications and weather tracking. They were weapons. Beams of pure energy shot down from space, striking every alien ship at once. The beams were powered by the sun itself, focused through mirrors that had been hidden, in orbit for 50 years. The alien shields that had seemed so powerful were designed to stop missiles and bullets, not concentrated solar energy. Admiral Vorthak watched in shock as his flagship's shields failed. Alarms screamed throughout his ship as systems began shutting down. "How is this possible?" he demanded. "These humans are supposed to be primitive." His science officer was staring at his instruments in disbelief. "Sir, they have been preparing for our arrival for decades. Their satellites contain technology almost as advanced as ours." At the same time, Dr. Susan Clark's computer virus began spreading through the alien fleet's computer systems. The virus had been designed by Earth's best programmers, working together in secret for 20 years. It attacked the aliens' navigation, weapons, and life support systems all at once. 3 alien ships crashed into the Montana mountains as their pilots lost control. 2 more ships began spinning helplessly in the air as their engines failed. The remaining ships tried to retreat, but their navigation systems were infected with the virus. On the ground, Captain Steve Rogers watched the alien ships falling from the sky. His radio crackled with reports from around the world. Every alien ship on Earth was under attack by the hidden satellite weapons. "Sir, this is amazing," Sergeant Tim Johnson shouted. "The aliens are being destroyed everywhere. New York, London, Tokyo, all the major cities. Our people are winning." But the battle wasn't over yet. Admiral Vorthak's flagship was still flying, protected by backup systems that the virus hadn't reached. The admiral was furious and desperate. He ordered his remaining warriors to attack. The school on foot. 200 alien soldiers poured out of the damaged ships. They wore heavy armor and carried the most powerful weapons their technology could produce. Vorthak himself led the charge, determined to kill every human in the building. Inside Lincoln Elementary, Pete Williams saw the aliens coming through the security cameras. They were moving fast and looked angrier than before. Pete spoke into his radio one last time. "Everyone stay in the basement. No matter what you hear upstairs, don't come up, we've got this." The first aliens entered through the destroyed front doors. Immediately, Joe Carter's water trap activated. Broken pipes flooded the hallways with 3 feet of rushing water. The aliens stumbled and slipped on the wet floors. Then Pete's piano wire traps caught the next group. Invisible wires stretched across doorways caught several aliens around the neck and chest. They fell backward into the water, creating chaos in their formation. Helen Moore's art supply weapons came next. Sharpened rulers shot out of wall-mounted crossbows she had built. Melted crayon wax made the floors impossibly slippery. Even her kindergarten safety scissors, when thrown hard enough, could pierce alien armor at weak points. But there were too many aliens and too few humans. Pete Williams found himself surrounded by 5 alien warriors in the main hallway. His crowbar was no match for their energy weapons. He closed his eyes and thought about the children in the basement. Then the building shook with a different kind of explosion. Outside, every military force on Earth had arrived at once. Tanks, helicopters, jets, and soldiers surrounded the school. But they weren't using regular weapons anymore. The secret weapons from Project Starfall included ground-based energy cannons that fired the same solar beams as the satellites. These weapons had been hidden in military bases around the world, disguised as radar dishes and communication towers. The energy beams cut through the alien ships like paper. Admiral Vorthak's flagship broke apart in the sky and crashed into the forest behind the school. The admiral himself was thrown from his ship and landed hard on the playground. Techmore, the war leader who had started this attack, tried to escape back to his damaged ship, but Karen White was waiting for him with her final chemical weapon. She threw a bottle of concentrated acid that ate through his environmental suit. The war leader fell to his knees, gasping for air that burned his lungs. With his last breath, he managed to activate his emergency communicator to send a message to his homeworld across the galaxy. "Do not come to Earth," Thekmore whispered. "These humans are not what they appear to be. They have been preparing for war since before we discovered them. They are more dangerous than any species we have ever encountered." The message traveled across space at the speed of light. When it reached the Zephyrian Empire 6 months later, it caused panic among the alien leaders. They immediately declared Earth to be a Category 5 galactic threat and established a quarantine zone around the entire solar system. At Lincoln Elementary, the battle was over. Every alien on Earth had been defeated or killed. The children emerged from the basement to find their teachers and protectors standing victorious in the ruins of their school. Bobby Chen ran to Pete Williams and hugged his legs. "We won, mister. Pete, we really won." Pete looked down at the brave boy who had built a radio from computer parts. "No, Bobby, you all won. You kids were the bravest people I've ever known." President Hayes arrived by helicopter 2 hours later. He walked through the damaged school building and met every child personally. He shook hands with Pete Williams, Karen White, Helen Moore, and all the teachers who had risked their lives. "The whole world knows what happened here," the president told them. "You didn't just save these children, you saved our entire planet." Margaret Stone was appointed as the first director of planetary defense education. Lincoln Elementary was rebuilt as a monument to human courage. The new building included a museum showing how ordinary people had defeated an alien invasion, using nothing but determination and love for their children. The alien technology that was recovered advanced human science by centuries. Within 10 years, humans had their own spaceships exploring the galaxy. They found many worlds where the Zephyrian Empire had enslaved other species, but whenever human ships appeared, the aliens fled in terror. Word had spread across the galaxy about the species that would do anything to protect their young. No alien race ever attempted to attack Earth again. Years later, when Bobby Chen became an adult, he often told his own children about the day aliens attacked his school. He would end the story the same way every time. "The aliens made one mistake," Bobby would say. "They thought humans were weak because we cared about our children. They didn't understand that caring about our children is what makes us the strongest species in the galaxy." And that was why the final alien to strike a human. School didn't live to regret it, because they never understood what it truly means to threaten a human child.